Alright, well hello everyone. This is going to be a video on powder skis, what to look for in a powder ski, and what fits the area that you're skiing. So first off, we're going to start with a couple things. Number one being ski width, ski length, and ski shape or flex, which is denoted as camber, which meaning the ski flexes downward, or rocker, where it flexes up, down, and up, or there can be reverse camber, which is just the opposite of this. Something like that, like a banana. So, if you've ever been in real snow, you know that you sink when you step in it. So I like to think of it like water skiing. So when you're water skiing or wakeboarding or whatever, you want the widest possible thing to stand on because that's going to get you up and out of the water. So the fatter your skis are, the easier it is for you to get up out of the water and stay floating. The easier it is for you to float. Same with these skis. So the wider the ski, the easier it is to float. But it's not just the width, it's the tip, tail, and center width, which I will get to. Secondly, the length. The longer the ski, the easier it is for you to float because there's more surface area. Third is the shape. So if you have camber, your tips are constantly being pushed down here. So it's gonna wanna dive under the snow to keep that edge contact, because the edges are literally pushing against the snow when you stand on it. Think of it as like a cup. When you push pressure on the cup, it's gonna push the tip and tail into the ground. That's how you get good edge contact for carving, but in powder, it's gonna force your tip and tail under the snow. As far as rocker, you have these tips that curl up, as I'll show you on the skis example, and they're gonna wanna pull you out of the snow because they're gonna flare up, and as you're moving, it's gonna slowly pull you up out of the snow. So there's advantages and disadvantages to all of this, and we're gonna talk about it in real examples. So right here, what I have is, I have my carving skis, my park skis, my travel skis, Ben Chetler 100s, and the Candide 3.0s, 110 underfoot. So they're various lengths. These are about 80 underfoot, about, 86 underfoot. These are 100 underfoot, and these are 110s underfoot. Different lengths, 170, 180, 180, and 170. So I brought these out here just to show you the various widths and show you what to look for. So on a powder ski, the fatter the better. So if you were going to pick one just on width alone overall, these would obviously be your best bet because they're the widest. But it's not just the width, it's the tip and tail width. And that's going to help you with other things too. So like these Ben Chetlers, they're only 100 underfoot here, but they're also almost as wide as these up here, right? They're very wide. Like these are 129 under at the tip, 120 tail. These I believe are 140 tip, and like 130 tail, and wider underfoot. So they're a lot more similar to these than they are to these, which are only 112 and 120 under tip and tail. So what that does is, the more surface area, like I said before, the more surface area you have, the better your ski is going to float. So something that's wider underfoot and wider tip and tail is going to float a lot better than something that's thinner underfoot but still wide tip and tail. and even better than something that's just thinner. So that's also goes with this, the ski's side cut, right? So the side cut does matter. This one has less of a side cut, which meaning there's less difference between the tips, the center, and the tails, right? So it cuts in less, as you can see on this one, and especially on this one. It cuts in a lot. Less cut and a lot less cut. And there's pros and cons to that. The pros are that it's gonna float better. The cons are that on harder terrain, it's gonna be, or like firmer terrain, hard pack groomers, it's gonna be less responsive. So generally the theme is that the better it is for powder, like over here, the worse it's gonna be on groomers, or all around. So these are a more specialized powder soft snow ski, and these are more specialized hard snow, closer to carving park ski. So next we're gonna go into length. So 180 and 180s are longer. I picked these as my soft snow powder skis for a reason, because they get a much better float than even a 170. It makes a big difference. All right, so last but not least, we're gonna talk about shape. So shape is an important part of the ski. We're gonna go with the easiest, which is the powder skis. You can notice how they don't have much camber at all. They don't bow into each other. The tip and tail, when they touch, they make a small bend in here. It's not very springy. And see how there's a lot, when the ski touches together, there's a lot of tip here before it wants to touch. So when you're skiing on flat, all of this contact isn't, this whole part of the ski isn't actually touching the snow. It's above. Now in powder, this will all contact and help you float. The other thing to notice is that these, it's hard to see, but are very flexy. They're flexy skis, and that will help absorb a lot of the chatter in the soft snow that it will definitely have. Now moving to the opposite extreme, you'll see here that there's a much bigger bow in these, and they want to stay open. And when you come up here to the tip, there's not a lot of rocker. I mean, these are technically a park ski, but there's not a lot of rocker here. All right, so these tips, the bend, the bend in these skis here wants to push the tips into the snow so that you get the whole edge contact. Whereas this one, it wants to lift up. So we'll go into the middle ones. The bend chetlers are a great middle ground ski because they have camber in here, so the edges contact, but they also have a lot of rocker. Can you see that? You can see how this whole part of the ski isn't even going to be touching the ground most of the time, and it has these flared little ends here and make it a spoonbill that help it catch in the deep snow. So the benefit to that is it's gonna give you the best of both worlds to some extent. Same with these skis. They're a thinner version of the same thing, but with less rocker. They have some camber in the middle, but on the tip, they have much more rocker. See, it's from about here to here, instead of there where there's basically not much. See, there's more, and here it's a lot more. And here, it's even more. So, the camber, and also these are arrayed in stiffness. So these being the stiffest, these being the softest. And what the mixed ski is gonna give you is some performance on hard terrain or groomers, something that's not as soft. So if it's icy one day, these would be my least pick, these would be my best pick. But if I wanted something that's an all-arounder, it would be these two, because they will give you enough powder performance, especially these, that I would take them on a powder day. But they also have the camber to work on an icy day or a firmer day. So that's why these Ben Chetlers are my main travel ski, because they can do both. They're the most versatile. Now, if I know I'm only going to be skiing powder, let's say I'm going backcountry, I'll want these, because they're just better performance in soft snow. These are the best. And if I know I'm going to be skiing only firmer conditions, I wouldn't even bring these two. I'd only stick with these two, because they're thinner, they have more camber, they're going to turn easier, they're going to catch an edge better on firm conditions. So with that being said, the stiffness plays into it too. These are stiff enough underfoot that they'll work good carving and on firm conditions and park, whereas these, they're softer, they're going to absorb all the chatter. In like a fresh snow, it gets very lumpy, but they're going to be less responsive. They're going to feel like more like a noodle on groomers and park. So that's just a general overview of what to look for. If you're going to rent skis or buy skis, it just depends where you are. I'm on the East Coast, but I travel all over the country. So I usually take these skis because no matter what the conditions are, these will perform. If I'm getting deep snow, I mean, I've skied these in 50 plus inches of snow already, and they work fine. These are a little bit better, but these I will not be complaining about at all. I've skied these in snow. These are terrible. They're okay, but they don't float very well. They want to sink under the snow. Whereas these, because they have more camber and are a little softer, these float a lot better. But when it gets too deep, they get bogged down because they're not wide enough to float above. Whereas these float like crazy, so I can turn on a dime in deep powder with these. But these want to sink more and cut. These cut all the way to the bottom. And these float enough, but still cut enough that they're fun, even in deep snow days. So that's basically an overview, explaining to you generally what I've experienced with my arsenal of skis and about 10 years of ski experience all over the country. Just to summarize, it's ski width, ski shape, and ski length. The longer the length and the fatter the width, the better they are in powder. Underfoot, the thinner it is underfoot, the better it'll perform all over, but mainly on groomers. The fatter it is underfoot, the more geared towards a powder ski it's going to be. And if you live, let's say if you live on the East Coast, the 110s, unless you're doing backcountry or solely as a powder day, they're going to be too big most of the time. Or maybe like a spring ski. I take these out in the spring a lot when it's like super mush. They're good. I would gear, if you're an East Coaster, I would gear towards this end. If you're a West Coaster and you ski a lot of fresh snow, I would probably go 100 underfoot or fatter. If you want something that performs everywhere, get the 100. If you want a powder ski, get the 110. They make a 120 too, but it's a little too much for me. But they do float better than the 110. And that's pretty much a summary of it. So gear your skis, know what to look for, and gear your skis for where you're going to be skiing and the conditions you're going to be skiing. So thanks for listening.